I am head of His Majesty's personal guard. My name is Ginger.
And me, they call Nicky.
And my name is Sancho.
And I'm Javert.
The first film of the Z era was released on July 15, 1989, after Vegeta creates a power ball during his ancestral battle against Goku in the manga, and between episodes 11 and 12, during the absolutely not pedantic filler segment of the Saiyan arc, because the show needed a lousy Arlian romance for its CV. Anyway, for those who live in the US, the Dead Zone title may sound a bit more familiar, or for us Italians, The Divine Revenge. But in the original release, the actual title was simply Dragon Ball Z. Fortunately, they would implement a more cogent title thereafter, named this time Dragon Ball Z Return My Gohan. This movie represents a landmark for the subsequent run in the 90s, since this is where the series composer and regular writer Takao Koyama comes into play by providing the scripts of the next 12 movies. And whoa, I think I'll always be dissecting his ideas for the next 13 videos, because his films aren't well known for their brilliant scripts, so it would be better to observe why. Series director Daisuke Nishio returns on the directional department, and Minoru Maeda remains steady as an animation supervisor. For instance, I already have to admit my fondness for this movie, regardless of its problematic faults, despite not being the very first one I ever saw in the 2000s. It's not about the memories, since its visuals tried to send a message that it might have been the fourth Dragon Ball movie if they had carried on the original numeration, starting with episode 154 without the trademark Z. Might appear as a contorted opinion, but just look at the visuals. The character art doesn't even belong to the Z era that much. There is a quite touching interest in building choreographies also involving swords and blades. Lasers, energy waves and transformations are narrowly marginal. Plain and simple, I view it more as a wannabe original Dragon Ball movie than an actual DBZ one. I mean it, Maeda's supervision is at its peak. His corrections look fresh and quite expressive as well. Not even his early Studio Junior entries in the Z era feature this artistic level, possibly since they don't need many corrections given those four big names. In fact, this Maeda and the Maeda from the very next movie cannot deliver the same performance, because they belong to different eras, as this marks the final cornerstone of the original Dragon Ball. And ends on a positive note, visual-wise at least. Nishio's direction is indeed great, the battles are framed and choreographed masterfully, and I quite agree with some artistic choices, like the sketchy flashback of Garlic seeking revenge upon Kami-sama becoming God of Earth. Before tackling the plot, I'd like to talk about the main villain, Garlic Jr., who is quite overhated for reasons I actually ignore. Could it be due to the filler arc? Nah, I think it's fine, it's not amazing, but it's nowhere near as bad as lots of people believe. I'd take it over the other World Boredom arc every day. Seriously, why is Garlic despised so much? Considering the level of the movie villains of the franchise, he's actually pretty decent. At long last, we do get a bad guy with a sensible motivation. Sure, the revenge kind of plot isn't the most original, but I can buy it in this case because this is concrete gold compared to some future villains. His techniques look pretty cool, he throws key balls with style, I like the Dead Zone as a last resort, and also the fact he needs eye drops at some point. What about his immortality? Well, while it's without a doubt a smart move, it's sadly made completely incoherent by a precise moment we'll see in the negative section. As for his sidekicks, they're pretty dumb. Almost Toriyama-like dumb, which is okay. During the first act, they appear as snarky and overbearing henchmen, but unfortunately, once the action begins, they act more like generic bad guys. Quite a pity, Nicky had a few likable bits, like his introduction where he devours 3 apples out of nowhere and him quote-unquote babysitting an intoxicated Gohan. Now on to an important factor, Kikuchi's M800. Why is this soundtrack that important? Is it for the amount of overused tracks? Not necessarily. Is it for being a return to form after a subpar M600? Possibly. But the fact of the matter is, this is the first movie soundtrack to feature less than 50 tracks. Albeit not the very first one, since the Red Ribbon and Piccolo Daimao soundtracks were slimmed down too, but I just don't consider it a mere fortuity, because not only quality is put over quantity, but also the Garlic Jr. leitmotif features a massive improvement in terms of orchestration. Easily on a par with the M500 Piccolo motif, possibly even better. I say this without considering its overuse in the main series, from the 21st episode onwards, since M700 Shala Het Shala soundtrack is abused to death as well, but if we exclude the two Piccolo-centric tracks, it globally gets on my nerves after 20 straight episodes. Besides, its orchestrations are not as ambitious and well structured as this one. In detail, starting with the quote-unquote minor tracks. This amazing melody is used when Kaiosama informs Goku of the Genki-Dama, and when Bardock has a vision of Goku on Namek. This one, brief yet well orchestrated, is used when the Kienzan scars Nappa's cheek and when the final flash point-blank strikes Cell. This brilliant rehash of the famous Piccolo theme is played when Piccolo decides to fight Frieza alone, and this classic remake of the original Dragon Ball theme is never played in the original run, but does appear in the 2008 special Yo Son Goku and His Friends Return, when Goku defeats Avocado. As for the big ones, this is a longer version of the classic Shenlong theme, featuring dramatic crescendos in the first part, and the Garlic motif in the second. Played when Bulma and the others summon the dragon and when Goku goes over 8000. This excellent track features its use during Goku's triple Kaioken power-up, and it's a total classic. This other classic is used several times, including Kuririn dying by Frieza's hand. And this one, unreleased, yet so famous for being the closer of various episodes in the Namek arc, is, you guessed it, a classic. We're not done, since there is also the bigger ones, like this sheer classic, whose most noteworthy usage occurs during Goku's first Super Saiyan transformation. Again, what am I supposed to say? The piano at the beginning, the dramatic violence, it's exceptional. And what about those two battle themes? The Piccolo vs Sancho literally needs no comments, the initial violins speak for themselves. And the other one, the Ginyu Force introduction, the triple Kaioken striking Vegeta, Goku stopping two dinosaurs in that cringe of a filler, also represents the battle theme. I hope I didn't bore you while discussing M800, but seriously, it's that great. Maybe the sad track isn't as strong as the rest, but it's still not as bad as another brick in the Chaozu. Oh, there is also an insert song, Tenkaichi Gohan, sung by Masako Nozawa herself, which is played during the weird montage of intoxicated Gohan. And I gotta be honest, this part is actually decent. It is strange and random, but that's why it works. It makes zero sense for Nikki to chase a drunken kid all over Garlic's castle. And I may sound unpopular, but I wish this was the ending song of the actual show. It's way better than Zenkai Power. Among the aspects I enjoyed, we get secondary characters entering the action, such as Chi-Chi trying to take on Garlic's henchmen and Kami-sama himself against Garlic, even though I still don't get why he would detonate himself in spite of being aware of Garlic's immortality. Last resort maybe? Meh.
Am I to understand that you are ready to sacrifice your life for the Earthlings?
Animation-wise, there is a mix of regular and less familiar names, like late Masami Suda who animated the opening ambush, and former Studio Live Hiroshi Takeuchi who tackled a good portion of Goku vs Garlic henchmen. Although the movie peak may coincide with Sato, Izada and Shimanuki's scenes appearing in sequence, followed by Yukio Ibizawa's section. To his credit though, looks kinda decent in its trademark banality. Kinda. Now, on to the main topic, Takao Koyama's script. By now you might realize the existence of his ill-famed formula that will wrap these movies throughout this run. It's a streak of narrative tropes that function as the base for his stories, which are going to be reiterated over and over. Regardless, I won't have to constantly repeat said tropes, as long as we can play the Koyama Bingo! As far as this movie goes, its score is only a 3 out of 9. Fortunately, the narrative dynamics still keep the events fresh and unpredictable to an extent, as Goku and Piccolo are both active for totally different purposes. The former wants his son back, whereas the latter seeks revenge for the opening ambush. Koyama's self-referential tone is surprisingly restrained in this movie, but said callbacks end up affecting the whole story either way, because the idea of kidnapping Gohan is directly taken from the Raditz portion of the Saiyan arc. But unlike the Resistance, the film could have actually dodged this device by just taking the hat. Simple as that. The Raditz section inevitably gets to influence the subsequent events, including Goku and Piccolo teaming up against Garlic, Garlic performing the same move Raditz did by attacking the duo from behind, the duo taking off the weighted clothes, even sharing the exact same dialogues, Chi-Chi saying "Gohan-chan, Gohan-yo" like in the first episode, and Gohan defeating Garlic with his hidden powers, just like his rampage against his uncle. But I have to admit it's an enjoyable change of pace that disregards any possible formula, helped by the fact the Garlic doesn't actually die, leading to an open finale and to lots of possibilities. Speaking of Gohan, first we see him cry in fear upon its abduction, but then he's shown playing tag with Nikki. I'm sorry, did I miss something? As for Kuririn's role, he's been Koyama's butt monkey ever since that filler episode in which he had to stop a lava flow alongside Yamcha, Tenshinhan and Chaozu, and in sequence risked to fall into a pit but was saved by Chaozu's Bukujutsu, hurt his hand upon smashing a giant rock, and inexplicably didn't join Yamcha in Ten's final efforts. I just can't figure out the reason behind such an abrasive attitude. Why the hate? What the frig did Kuririn do to deserve to have Gohan pee on him? Or to be struck by a gargantuan pillar? Or for being less active than Chi-Chi and Kami-sama? I mean, even Chi-Chi receives a fair share of action, whereas Kuririn doesn't. And no, his cool entrance isn't a solid justification. This is shameful, this running gag isn't funny, yet I feel I'll hate it even more in the future. Lastly, Garlic Jr.'s immortality wish. As I stated earlier, it's a smart and practical choice. It raises the difficulty bar for the protagonists, since it will be impossible for them to eliminate him. If only it weren't preceded by such a nonsensical opening. So, Garlic and his lackeys attack Piccolo simultaneously, roast him with their ki blasts, and Garlic concludes by saying that they let him have it and Kami-sama is also dying in the process. Then Garlic orders his lackeys to find the Dragon Balls. Wait, if they do know if Piccolo dies, then Kami dies along with him, why did none of them follow the identical logic about the Dragon Balls? And while we're at it, why are they so bloody amazed by Kami-sama being alive? They just used the Dragon Balls. What's the reason for their awe?
Good lord, it's God!
Good lord, it's God! And lastly, why are his henchmen so bloody amazed by Piccolo showing up? Why are they being this dense? Even assuming that they might not be aware of the Namekian duo's connection to the Dragon Balls, there is no logical way Piccolo being alive could ever be a surprise. Piccolo is alive? What kind of witchcraft is that? Overall, despite of these massive faults, I can still praise this movie for its uniqueness. Of course, it's got too many flaws to deserve the superior tier, which spoilers won't include perfect movies either, because even in 2022, there is still no perfect Dragon Ball film. In any case, a great tier fits it better.